Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So before commencing this session, I would like to give a brief about who we are and what is LinkedIn Local. It is an initiative taken by a bunch of college students to help students excel in the domain by steering them professionally. And it aims to engage the regional LinkedIn users with other users of similar interests to enhance their abilities. We are trying to make people aware how LinkedIn can establish a perfect platform for all the intellects out there to widen their community. So I, as a member of LinkedIn Local Anand, Mehak Master, takes utmost pleasure to welcome Miri and Mr. Deepak sir and all the attendees on behalf of our team. Without wasting their precious time, I'd like to give a quick introduction of the speaker for this session. Miri is a globally recognized storyteller and head of global internship program at Microsoft. She is creative journalist and content advocate, evangelizing brand narrative and showcasing how Microsoft employees and partners can leverage Microsoft storytelling techniques for their own success. Miri has earned several awards in digital marketing and customer experience and is ranked as top in-demand speaker at leading industry conferences around the world. Miri brings 15 plus years of expertise, valuable industry insights, and a light-hearted approach. Hosting her is Mr. Deepak Bhatt, who is serving as Deputy General Manager at Astron Packaging Limited, a group of Intas Pharmaceutical Limited. Pleasure to have you, sir. Over to you now.
Thank you. Thank you, Miri, for finding time and allowing us to listen to your thoughts in today's webinar. I would like to kick off, things by welcoming to you and our audience as well. So this is a time of pandemic era where we have to find a new way to keep ourselves energetic, ourselves in a regular process.
Yeah.
So I just want to ask the first question: what kind of change do you see in the developer's role in current scenario? Because you hire a lot of interns in your company,
Yeah.
Microsoft.
Yeah.
So
Thank you
what-
so much.
Yeah. So what kind of change do you see?
Yeah, a lot of change. Thank you for having me as well, Deepak. It's a pleasure to be connected with you today. There's a lot of change going on. As you mentioned, there's change going on in the world, and that absolutely has impacted everything. It has impacted change in roles as well, and it means a lot of different paths for our developer community. We are absolutely focused on cloud computing, and I think COVID-19 most absolutely drove and forced even more this path, this era of digital revolution across the world, where there were places that we did not, they were still starting their path. It is clear now that everyone must jump on that bandwagon and really focus on their digital revolution. What that means for our developers, in general, their role is that they're going to be part of this growing enterprise of services offered by big tech, and that includes cloud architects and cloud consultants and cloud engineering, software developers for cloud, all of these different ideas around being, approaching cloud services differently and even more broader than we thought before, because companies are needing it today. And so we're talking about planning ahead for developers to think about what that looks like. Cloud developers need to plan their requirements. They need to understand the cloud technologies. They need to understand what achievements their organizations are going to plan ahead soon as they start implementing these cloud services.
Excellent, good. Following to my first question, how should the aspirants for coding field should prepare and change in the learning process? Because learning is very, very important during this, online mode.
Absolutely, and
So
I love that this is LinkedIn local, and I love that because on June 30th, the president of our company of Microsoft, as you know, we own LinkedIn, and Brad Smith, our president, announced a Skillings initiative that is true for all of us all around the world, and especially for our coding field. In this initiative that was announced, the aim is that we will have digital skills available to 25 million people worldwide by the end of this year. Yes, by the end of the year. And this is going to bring existing resources from LinkedIn, from GitHub, and from Microsoft, and it's going to be grounded in 3 specific areas. So the first one is going to be the use of data. So it's going to be a data skilling set. There's going to be, and there already is, these ideas around becoming a software engineer, a sales representative, a project manager, all of the different roles that you can have within that field of data. We're going to have access to learning paths for people skilling, so lifestyle ideas around how to interview, these what we call the soft skills around storytelling. So there's a lot of different things that not only do the coding skills serve you, but also the soft skills that you need to be successful in your career building. And of course, low-cost certifications. So we are offering either free or low-cost certifications for job-seeking tools that you'll need, especially around Azure certification and cloud computing.
excellent. You may also find some challenges in terms of getting applications and in terms of, because students has lots of confusion. They have also some technical queries, etc. So how do you resolve that during the certification?
Yeah. Absolutely, and that's where we have to approach this in a very growth mindset approach, right? Because COVID if it taught us anything, is that the ambiguity lends itself to what may happen next. We are trying to navigate all of the nuances, all of the the things that we need to be doing to establish these platforms, knowing as well that we can find some things that we may not have planned ahead for because we just couldn't. So it's really around having that growth mindset and rolling it out and seeing what happens. We certainly cannot just stop what we're doing or stop providing the resources that we believe our engineers will need to be able to now take their skill sets to the next level, especially now that COVID-19 has happened. So I think there's no better time than the present, and especially during the present, it is the time where our students we're seeing are hungry for learning. They're home more, so there's an opportunity even bigger to deliver the solutions digitally, and so we're leveraging that. We're leveraging all we can to really let our students know, and not just students, our coders, developers, anyone who wants to come from a full-time position, to really know that we care as a company, that we want to empower the world as a company, and that we're leveraging the tools that we have, such as LinkedIn, to showcase that. And so these paths are available for them to complete, and we're still working on other different initiatives to be able to roll that out more and more.
Excellent. So now we are into a different kind of world, that is, we call it digital world because of this. So I think we should thank COVID-19 because the digital literacy is very, very important for next generation, future leaders.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So pre-COVID era, if I will talk about pre-COVID era and after post-COVID, what is the difference between the college curriculum and industry applications? Because you are now more application-oriented organization. Yeah. So how do you compare between theory and the application part?
I love that question, and I think as they introduced me earlier before, I'm also a marketer, and having written a book, I had to do a lot of research on the students, on this new generation, on not only millennials and Gen Z, but Gen Alpha, and I think along with the digital revolution, and then the force of that with COVID-19 even deeper for companies that were just starting their digital revolution process. Now we also have a generation, a tech native generation, and their demands is what I call the modern worker, right? And as I was talking to you earlier offline, we have provided and we continue to build these modern workplace solutions, and yet we need to consider even more the demands of our modern worker. What does that mean? That means that I see change in the way that we're learning. I see change that is being forced, especially, for example, here in the U.S., our students have to go back to school. I'm sure it's the same in different places in the world, but never did they think that they were not definitely prepared to deliver a virtual classroom solution. They're doing hybrid, they're trying to figure it out, but they're going to have to figure it out, right? So this is forcing that idea of learning is now the demand from the learning student is when I want to, how I want to. I don't have to be confined in a desk for 7 hours. I have more flexibility. I demand more flexibility, as we're seeing with workers. So I think there's going to be absolutely a revolution brought on by COVID-19, brought on by the virtual and cloud computing and all the solutions that we had been working on to establish that in the market, along with our students, our new generations that are saying, why do I need to do this way? It's so archaic. It's so traditional. Now I can just get on my computer and do my work. And so we're definitely going to have to begin adapting and evolving with those demands.
Very nice. As you know, now most of the people are now online. So
yes.
Does Microsoft taken any initiative to find out what is the mental health for interns, those who are already working? If you can just
100%. Yeah, so we have began, especially because we do research with our interns every year. When they come and they come to us, we do surveys, we do ethnographic research. We want to understand their experience. We also know that every year is different, every class is different in how we offer that, and this is true across the world. So we're doing this in India as well. We bring over 800 interns in India alone, 3,000 in HQ, 5,000 worldwide. So that's a large number of students that come to us every year.
Wow.
And so it's for us, it's very important to understand how they feel empowered, right? And we know that empowerment is subjective. To some students, empowering means give me your hand. I want to be, held by the hand and be walked through this process that is very daunting to me or very big to come to a company like Microsoft. But you also have some students that say, hey, let me do it my way. I want to figure it out. That feels empowering to me. So the same with mental health, the same with physical health. We're understanding that our students are navigating this process, especially during COVID, differently. Some of them will burn out quickly. Some of them will seize this opportunity as an entrepreneurship idea and want to do new things. They want to create new things. So it really is subjective in terms of their mental health. And so what we're learning is we give ideas and we give spaces for them to co-create. We had started this idea of co-creation a couple of years ago. It actually started in Europe, and it was out of a demand that our students were saying, thank you for the experience, but I think I want to be part of that creation of that experience. I am the person driving that experience. So we said, you're right, that's great, let's do that. And so we began to let them create their experience, really co-create their experience. Out of that, for mental health, we are seeing incredible results. We're seeing things like open mic experiences, especially here in America, where the Black communities are able to speak about the Black experience, for example. That to them is mental health, that enables that space for allyship. We're seeing yoga classes, we're seeing just different things, people that are cooking different recipes and learning how to cook at home because they can no longer go out and eat at a restaurant. So out of this idea of co-creation, our own students are driving their health, physical, mental, and even spiritual, and they're thinking about how they can actually co-create with other students and enable that for other students. And that has been an incredible experience for us to be able to set that platform for them. So they're driving it and we're giving them the platform.
Did you see any increase in number of applications after COVID-19? Like during, now, not after, but during COVID-19?
Yeah. Yeah, so we just opened our applications at the end of August, just now, and we are seeing a lot of interest. I can't quantify the numbers yet. Typically, the applications will close by the end of, I want to say October. So they don't really close; they kind of stay open because we do have some off-season internships. But the bulk of our applications will come in between now and October, November, and that's when typically we start to review those applications. And I can tell you from the original, insights that I've gotten, the demand by our groups did not, it remained the same, meaning we're hiring the same as we did last year, which is exciting in terms of numbers. And then we have seen year over year an incredible interest in Microsoft. One of the things that I came into last year in HR was learning that we used to do a lot of marketing around the brand and spend a lot of resources in trying to get our brand out there. We haven't had to do a lot of that lately, because the brand is strong enough that people just want to come to Microsoft. They really know Microsoft is on the map. It is leading. Back to that idea of cloud computing, we are a leader in this space, and we've demonstrated that over and over. So it's exciting. And beyond our services, in the thought leadership space, we have done a lot of different things around AI for good, for example, and different social good initiatives that have put Microsoft beyond a tech company. We really are trying to empower the world in different ways, and that makes people excited. Our students, kids like my son, they want to be part of a company that do beyond a job, right? They want to be part of something that is changing the world, that is it's inspiring the world in a way. And so Microsoft is doing that, and I think that speaks for itself. People are really excited to come.
Wonderful. My next question is, what are the changes with respect to the region, in the country, should be made in company like Microsoft, like difference in the working process for India and US, in example?
Yeah, so a lot of our equity in terms of workplace environment, it's always a journey for us, right? Because we understand there are nuances and flavors in each country. While we try to drive an equitable experience from a brand perspective, if you come to work for Microsoft, you get the Microsoft experience. You get to live the Microsoft life. That may look different in India. They may look different in in Europe, in different parts of the world. But ultimately, do you feel empowered to be at Microsoft? That is the question. And so as we go through, for example, what COVID-19 has done and how, as we progress through the next couple of months, and we're thinking about maybe reopening faces in different locations, we do work with the local region authorities and guidelines to make sure that even though at the high level, of course, health and safety is #1 priority, that experience will trickle down working with the local authorities and local guidance. So that to say, we do bring and try to always work to bring that equity in terms of workplace, and the changes that happen typically change all up. But then there are those considerations around what it looks like for specifically to the region, understanding many different things happen regionally that may not happen, for example, in the US. And so we do, and we're very connected with all of our regions. In fact, for COVID-19 specifically, we have obviously a global task force to represent each region, to talk about the nuances, and our principles are guided globally. So we want to make sure that that equity is brought to all of our places, all of the countries in the world.
Wonderful. We have one question, what are the top skills in demand for MBAs viewed at Microsoft? So what qualities Microsoft would like to see for MBA?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about just data science, and internships specifically, because I know that comes a lot in my space for internships generally. So not for MBAs, I'll talk about that in a minute. So for undergraduate degrees, we look for specialization in CS, computer science, IT, EEE, and ECE. And we require that your year of passing will be 2022. So if you have a specialization in one of those areas and your year passing is 2022, then you're welcome to apply, and the applications are open right now. For MBAs, it's different, and it depends also in what field you're looking for. So we do offer, obviously, we have hardware engineering, we have software engineering, we also have research, and for research, you'll be a PhD. So it really would have to be the qualifications that each role would ask for, depending on the level of the role as well. So my recommendation is to go online and look at the qualifications. It will tell you exactly what you need specifically for that role.
Okay. Recently, I was going through one news that Google has announced work from home policy until 2021 for all their employees. Do you think the full Microsoft company can also work from home and everything virtually?
You know, I was talking earlier about the opportunities that do exist here. There are some nuances around working virtually, especially when you're working with a team on site on a specific project that involves hardware, for example, or that involves a specific coding, ability and project. However, what we have seen during COVID-19 is that it is possible, and that we demonstrated that throughout. In fact, we were able to grow our business in cloud computing, in software solutions for modern workplace solutions, essentially virtually. And so, yes, it is possible. I believe that what we're seeing is, again, that merge of virtual and digital environments being possible, as well as the demand from modern workplace to say, why do I need to go to work right now if I can do this from my home? So we're seeing a little bit of that. In fact, we're seeing some places where Microsoft has began to open, and some employees are choosing not to go to work, and there's different reasons why. But I think that's going to more and more drive this idea that yes, we will eventually be working virtually 100%. I don't know that that's going to be an implementation always. I think there's a need for us to have camaraderie and meet our teams. I personally miss my team. Seeing them face to face, there is an energy I think that is driven by meeting people, and especially for our interns, right? They get to meet their team. That's part of their experience. Meeting them in person versus meeting them virtually, there is a different experience. Not to say that it's not successful, but I think there's also something to be said about meeting your team and working with them one-on-one. So I think that we're going to see this. It's going to lend itself to an evolution for sure. How far will it go? I'm not sure. I think all of us need each other. We are driven by that energy as well. So I think that still remains to be seen.
Very nice. Good. We have one question from the audience. How can one be confident and also not be overconfident in interview for internships? Not specifically for Microsoft, but in general. What are your thoughts?
Sorry, can you repeat the first part of the question?
Yeah. So how one can be confident and not be overconfident? So you can.
Yes. I hear that a lot. So I would say this: you got to look at your confidence from two angles. I have learned that it is okay, and it should be okay, and it's more than okay for you to brag on who you are and your accomplishments. However, that is done in a way that you recognize the journey. Your accomplishments are built on. Your successes are built on things that you've done, and there's this journey there, and there are people who helped you in that journey. So if you show up and you show up confident, right, and you say, hey, Microsoft, you should hire me because I've got this and I got this and I got that, and I can offer this, and that's a great angle because we want to woo each other, right? It's like a dating idea. It's like, why should you hire me and why should I hire you? Show up well, show up confident, show up and show your skills and showcase them with the idea, the humble idea that someone helped you in that journey, that the success came with a journey, that it took your parents, for example, to work 3 jobs to get you through that school. Whatever that is, it shows confidence because you got here, and that's a great thing, but you are recognizing and you're being humble about the journey and the learnings that you had. Especially at Microsoft, I know this is for everything, but at Microsoft we value the learn it all approach, right? The learning all culture. So we want to see how you got there, and we want to see what you learned along the way. That is important. That is part of the culture. So yes, confidence is great, and you should have it. And it's not. I don't think there's an overly confidence. There's more of a pretentious attitude if you show that confidence up as to say, I'm great and that's it. Well, you're great because you had a journey. You weren't great always, right? And so we want to learn that journey, and that is part of the story that you would tell, not only at Microsoft but everywhere else.
So Miri, what's your story at Microsoft?
My story at Microsoft is a pretty crazy story. I never thought I could work for a company like Microsoft. I came from the slums of Venezuela, Caracas, Venezuela, and I didn't even know that we had an office in Florida. It never occurred to me that I could work for this kind of company. I got into tech a few years before that. I worked for Motorola, and then I worked for Citrix, and then I was working for a company in Miami that was a distributor for mobile devices, and the phone rang one day, and it was Microsoft. They said, "Hey, we wanna offer you a role," and I was like, okay. And it turned out to be, it was a person who I had met before who gave my name, and they referred me, and I had no idea. And that speaks to the power of connections and networking, by the way. That speaks to the power of community. I never knew I had an impact on someone who would then speak my name, and Microsoft would call me. I had no connection with this person beyond having worked with them before. So you don't know who you meet and what they can do for you, and the impact that you leave on people. So always be kind and always do your best. And I think that will definitely have its long-lasting effects.
Good. Miri, what are the new job roles that may emerge from this situation in near future?
Yeah, so we're seeing some good traction around research for quantum technology. As we explore more into that space, we're seeing a lot of interest there. Last year, we started offering internships in quantum, which was new. I think we're going to do that this year as well. In research, we continue to do. Again, everything really truly is leading to cloud computing and AI. And so we're seeing a lot of different experiential technologies around AI specifically, which I think is really exciting. And so when you think about that criteria, when you think about, again, what our students are going to be looking into and getting excited about, is that architect, consultant, even PM roles where there's a mix of not only doing the actual work within the technology, but you're also integrating a customer-facing approach. You're also thinking about the customer in a different way. So I think cloud is really lending itself in so many areas. So there's this mix of the actual work that you're doing, the coding specifically, and then how that translates to a user later on. And so there's a lot of empathy that we're looking at in terms of qualifications. Are you leading with empathy? It's one of the soft skills that we're thinking about. Growth mindset is as a core value for us, and so it's really, we're serving up so much, and really we're customer obsessed. So all of the conversations really think about the delivery models, for example, the services and products, the data application, the full stack, the back end, the front end, all of the deployment, all of that will be, how does that serve our customer best? We're going to keep that in mind. And so there's a lot of soft skills and hard skills that we're looking at.
So what are the priorities of Microsoft, whether skills or degree?
Yeah. So, both in different spaces, I would say. Right now, soft skills to us it's where we look at the foundation of our culture, right? So soft skills for us is, how can you talk about empowerment, and how do you see yourself in a world where we are empowering people, and that's our mission. How do you empower people? If you have great soft skills and coding skills, but you can't speak to that, it probably you won't be a fit into our culture. To us, it's really important that you're able to showcase. It's what I call demonstrated passion, right? A lot of people are like, hey, yeah, I'm passionate about empowerment. Okay, well, how are you passionate? How have you shown that? How have you been a community activist to show that you're passionate about empowering other people? So I think both are pretty critical. Of course, coding is the heart of what we do, and we need those coding skill sets 100%. But we also need the soft skills 100%. We lead with empathy. It is our core value. Imagine if we were coding and we were building machines with no empathy. Right? What the world will look like very soon as the robots take over, as AI begins to build its own algorithms with no empathy. So there's a huge, focus on building with empathy, coding with empathy at the design level.
Wow. So brand is looking for brand. This is what we say. So what are the ways? Yeah. So what are the ways and chances of a student from Tier 3 college, which is not a brand, to land an internship at Microsoft?
Yes, so brand, Is brand today? Brand is your presence. Honestly, you can't be everywhere, but you are everywhere because you live in a digital world. And so if you have not taken the time to build that, you're missing out on a whole lot. The reality is, and back to the question you asked earlier, our recruiters had an opportunity to meet one-on-one. To meet one-on-one and make that connection. That's not available now in this recruiting process. It's digital today. So where are you in this digital space? What have you built to showcase who you are, your passions, the work that you've done in the community? If you have not taken time to do that, you're missing out on a lot of opportunity. And so brand right now is it's your footprint. It is no longer your resume. Your resume is a part of that and a very minuscule part of that. So I'm big on brand from many aspects, but from a student perspective, I can tell you it is those students who have taken the time to focus and to invest in their personal brand, to build their profiles, to use their digital channels. I'm not only talking about LinkedIn. LinkedIn will be one of them. And I know in some parts of the world, LinkedIn is not as prominent, and that's okay. I'm not trying to put LinkedIn in place. What I'm trying to say, or input it in someone's brain, what I'm trying to say is, whatever digital platform you're using to connect with others, that is your digital presence and your footprint today. What are you doing with that? How are you showcasing your abilities? We are looking at you bringing your entire self to work. We recognize that you're not just a coder, you're not just a student, you're not just a recent graduate. You are many things, and we want you to bring your whole self. Part of our culture is that you bring your whole self, but we can't tell what your whole self is if you're not out there showcasing that. So it's important to us, take time to build your brand. I have done a couple of workshops for branding because it is important. It is extremely important, and we do look at it. Recruiters are looking at that.
Yeah, Miri, our audience would like to know about your book on self-branding. If you can just give some thoughts.
Okay. Let me see. I think I got it here. Okay. Sometimes it doesn't show on the camera. Yeah. So I wrote a book about brand storytelling. It's right here.
I have just ordered it from Amazon.
No way! Really? Thank you so much. Let me know if you like it.
Sure.
Let me know if you like it. Yeah. And so that's where my heart is there. I have to say, Deepak, for me, having my personal brand saved me in the industry, saved me in the workplace. It gave me a voice as a Latino woman, where we represent, less than, 2% of the industry, even less because I'm Latina. Being in tech as a woman, it's daunting, right? It's still not easy. Let's not lie. It's hard. And so for me, having a brand has amplified my voice. I gave myself a platform to amplify my voice. So I'm so passionate about this, and I wrote the book about it because of this, especially for women, for men and women both, but especially for women who are looking to get into tech, and they're doing such hard work and becoming coders and really, doing the academia. Go and show that off. It's really important that you go out there and you talk about who you are and what you are and your passions. It's very important.
Wonderful. There are many certifications are happening around LinkedIn and other platforms.
Yes.
So what do you think? Do these certifications are important in perspective of hiring interns for Microsoft?
Yeah, I would. Certifications. We have data analyst certifications, Azure certifications, so cloud certifications. All of this to say, we're giving this away because we believe it's important. So leverage it, right? It is part of our initiative, our skills initiative, because we know that it's something that our in-demand jobs will need. And the idea around this skilling initiatives, by the way, is that if you take those certifications, you will add yourself an extra layer, and you'll position yourself even better to get these jobs that are in demand. And so we want to also enable these low-cost certifications so that you can, along with free job-seeking tools, by the way, so it's not just certification, we're going to give you some job-seeking tools so that you can pursue new jobs, especially in this new digital era. So, we really want everyone to be as best prepared, and I would say take advantage of all that it has to offer, especially because you're home now. Take it. That also shows your passion, right? It shows, as I said, demonstrated passion passion, something that you want to do because it's offered to you and you leverage it. And it tells Microsoft that you care. It tells Microsoft that you are, you're really seeking to be part of this company because you've taken time and an initiative to build your certifications tool set. So.
Miri, I have also have one viewpoint at this stage. It is very easy to build a team when the team is present in your company, right? But it is very difficult to manage the team online. So how do you do team building exercise?
That's a great question. I have a couple of ways that I build my team. So I have a team of around 6 people specifically under me, and then we have an extended team that's way larger than that, as you can imagine. I also have a global team that manages the internships in different areas. So of course for India, that would be a team there. And so the first thing that I do is I do a check-in with my team. Before we actually do any team building, I think it starts with team assessing. How is my team doing right now? We are all navigating COVID differently. We're all in different parts of the world. We're all having, some of us are moms, some of us are not parents, some of us are younger, some of us are older. So there's a mix of people with different demands of life, navigating life right now with many different things happening. So a check-in is important. I ask 3 questions. The first one is, how are you doing? What is distracting you? And how can I help? And we do this every time we meet, and it takes a little while, but I think it's very important to assess where the team is. Sometimes during these meetings, one of them will say, I'm not doing well, and the meeting will actually focus on our well-being. And so I prepare myself to manage when the health of the team is not well. You have to prepare. You have to be able to, coach and care at the moment where your team member is saying, today I'm not well. We've had situations where things happen, right? Some of them have gotten in an accident, for example, or whatever the case may be, life happens. So we have to be prepared for managing those situations and showing that we care. I think that's the most important thing. Team building can seem superficial from the top down if we just have fun or have a virtual happy hour, but we don't know that our team member just got into an accident. So it's really important to establish that space first. And then as I assess how they're doing, if we're doing well, if we're doing relatively okay, when they talk to me and they say, I'm overwhelmed, there's a lot of work, or whatever the health index of the team is, then we build some parameters around that. Do we need to distract a little bit? Do we need to have a little bit of fun? Do we need to tell stories? I've allowed space for us to say, hey, let's just talk about a topic, one story right now. Let's all talk about the story. And so we distract ourselves a little bit from the day-to-day, and that re-energizes us. I also obviously meet with my team members one-on-one. So follow-ups from those team meetings that are collective really is around their individual health and what they need individually from me as a leader. And that's important that they feel supported. So I'm always, to me, my role is to facilitate their work, to make it easier and faster and better and more productive. And everybody feels productive differently, right? So there's people that are morning people, some people are afternoon people, some people need to take the day off to be able to reset and find their mental health. So to me, it's more around lending the space to let my team speak to me and tell me how they're doing so that I can help them back to enable what they need. If I don't know what they need, I'm assuming, and then I can come across as not empathetic and definitely not as an ally.
I remember Satya Nadella when he visited India last year in 2018.
Yeah.
He met Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi. And Mr. Modi has asked a question to Mr. Nadella that, how do you see Indian employees in Microsoft? So what are your perspective on this comment?
Yeah, first of all, I have to say, well, I'm in HQ typically, and we do have a lot of India team members, which I love. I have met and I have befriended many, especially Indian women, and I don't know if you know, but we have culturally we have some synergies on how women are brought up in the culture. So we get to really, it's really interesting from how we're brought up, from our how we see our parents and how the expectations of women. So it's really interesting, and I found those synergies. I see our India team and our India team members as one of the drivers of our technology. There's a lot of us there. There's a lot of them there, and there's a lot of synergies with what they do. I've learned so much from them and their culture, from your culture, and I love it. I mean, as a Latina, I can relate many ways.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I've also learned that there's this pride that India people have in their work, and they come here. For example, when they come here, you know, they really bring that. It's a different feel from Americans, for example, right? They take pride in their work and they are excellent at what they do. So there's this really kind of bar that they set for the work, and I love it and I appreciate it. Being Latina, like I said, there's some synergies there. So all that to say, India brings a lot of great value to companies like Microsoft and to us at Microsoft. And I have personally very close friends today that are from India, and I appreciate that so much.
Great. Management always prepare for the future plan. Microsoft definitely has a career plan for their employees. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So if I will ask you personally, like, where do you see yourself after 5 years in Microsoft?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Deepak, I didn't think I would be at Microsoft this long. In fact, first of all, I didn't think they would call me ever. So it was a nice surprise to be working here. And then before that, I had been at a job maybe 2 to 3 years max. In between, I was one of those that jump because I get bored or I want something new. But at Microsoft, I've been able to pivot my career 4 times. I've been in operations, I've been in customer services and support, I've been in engineering, and now I'm in HR. I mean, I've gone everywhere. Yeah. And what I love about it is that you can do that. You can pivot as many times as you want. You can go from one place to the other. Microsoft in its breadth and scope is so big, and so, it's global. So you can go so many places and you can try different things. I think am I back?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I don't know where I left off. I was talking and didn't realize that I was. So I was saying I pivoted my career 4 times, and where I see myself is wherever it takes me next. I think the beauty about working at a place like Microsoft is that it lends itself for you to really reinvent yourself as many times as you want and go anywhere. I mean, I would love to explore different places. I live in different places. I moved from Miami to Seattle. That was a change. Maybe going internationally. It really just depends on where I want to go next. But I know that Microsoft offers it, which is a nice thing. And that's where I think I always tell that students, I've had engineer students that say, hey, Miri, I went to school for coding. Now I want to get into business. I want to do marketing. You can come in and then, pivot and go to marketing. Now you have an in-depth idea of the product, and now you can go market it. So there's a beautiful, space to explore in many different levels and areas of Microsoft, which I think is remarkable. And I don't know how many companies have that ability, or if they do, if they really promote that plan for you. So Deepak, when you talk to your manager about your career, you're driving that conversation. You're empowered to say, this is where I want to go next. And the manager enables you, empowers you. That's their job. And so the conversations are not what you should be doing and that's it. Is thank you for this work that you're doing. Where do you want to go next? And you drive your career. You're empowered to manage your career at Microsoft, which I've been able to do, which is exciting.
I think this all depends on the culture of the company.
Yes, absolutely. And that wasn't like that before, by the way. I should tell you, before Satya came, it was a different culture. It was. I was there 2 years prior. Not that it was bad. It was just different. And so you're right. The culture has evolved in a way that, back to that empowering every person also means me. I'm a person. And so how do I empower myself to drive my career, to drive what I want to do? Or even if it's not just career in terms of, vertical, even lateral. I've been able to do many different things laterally that have enabled me to learn many different things again, spaces. I was able to get my master's degree. Microsoft was able to finance that for me, which I would have never been able to do. So Microsoft truly is a remarkable company that, I have lived that empowerment that it's given someone like me.
I have one specific question relating to the application.
Okay.
At Microsoft. Like
okay.
A candidate isn't able to clear a Microsoft interview past 2 to 3 years. So where he stands out in his application, according to you, where he or she is lacking?
Yeah, so, if they've applied a few times and they haven't been able to successfully get through, there are a couple things that I can recommend. One, I would recommend that they hire a tech resume builder. This is more than going and Googling, a tech resume, just because this person is able to actually translate your story and really put it well in a way that they understand tech companies look at resumes. That's the first thing, because that's the first thing that people are going to look at is really your resume. The second thing is I would ask, how is your digital presence? If it's not too strong, start building it. Use that same person that you hire to help you also build your LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn profile is different than your resume because it has different real estate that you can play with. You can have featured articles, you can have videos, you can have, it really makes I call it tells the story for your resume, your LinkedIn profile does. You're able to get a little bit more informal and talk about who you are. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, I talk about being a mom, I talk about, these other aspects of me that of course I can't put on a resume. So it brings depth to who you are. One of the things that we do look at again is that culture. How do you fit in that culture? So if your resume it's too simple and it doesn't showcase the depth of your culture of how you would fit at Microsoft, that could be one of those indicators. Also look at the qualifications. So each role that you apply for, even with internships, whether it's for software engineering, hardware engineering, it depends. Each of them will have a set of immediate qualifications. Make sure you have those and they literally are, you mention them exactly as they are. If it says you need a calculus course, mention that you have a calculus course because it's going to match it immediately to that qualification, and that next gets you to the next step. So you're trying to get to the screening piece. So make sure that what's going to get you to the screening piece is those qualifications listed, that you mention exactly that in your resume, and then you get to talk to the screening piece. During your screening process, tell stories. Quick stories. Be able to say, for example, why Microsoft? Well, because Microsoft exists to empower. Let me tell you how I empowered myself, and tell that story. It doesn't have to be a story about school or your education, your academia. It can be a story of, like me, I'm a middle child. I had to empower myself because, I was a middle child. That's what we do. So you bring depth to your character, and now you're bringing someone to empathize with you at the human level. These are skills that you have to learn in the hiring process. We do share some hiring interview tips in our LinkedIn group. I'm going to put it in the chat if you haven't become a part of it, because you do get to talk to our recruiters there as well, and we have some hacks and tips and tricks for there.
Absolutely, thank you. As you have written a book on brand storytelling, do you wish to handle a company on brand building someday?
Do I wish to do what with the company? Sorry?
Brand building. So from the role of HR to communication and digital and brand building.
I don't know. I actually consult today with brands, and I like that I consult and I'm not really working in the role itself. I think when you work in the role itself, it's a little bit different because you have some KPIs that you have to meet. If you consult, you really are more around ideation and you can get to see and learn more. I think I learn more when I consult. So I'm not saying no. I'm saying I don't know. I don't see it as my path right now. I'm so excited, Deepak, to be doing what I do right now. I've never been in a place where I'm like, okay, I get bored quick, so I'm like, okay, I gotta go into 2 years plan. I think I could be here for many years. I think there's a lot of work to be done. What I love about what I'm doing today is that I'm seeing the impact in our students, and that elates me. I'm seeing impact in our diversity hiring at Microsoft, and that elates me. The idea that we can bring, people of color to build our next machines and our next cloud computing, it's so exciting, and I'm a part of that, and I'm a small part of it, but it humbles me and it gives me so much passion. So when you do marketing is the product side, it's like, hey, this is the why. But to me, the real why is our people behind that. And so that I think I'm going to stay here for a little while.
Wonderful. We see Microsoft has turned the entire industry in terms of software, hardware, plus developing young people. So what
Yes.
is, according to you, has been a major factor in last 5 years that created an impact on society?
For me, it's been around that, the social for good, right? Like, how do we begin to think about, again, these technologies to enable more and more social responsibility around the world? I mean, what we're seeing is these technologies and the software engineering and AI and all of this, it's integrating in education, health, farming, and really for carbon footprint reduction. So where can we best enable our services in a way that it, beyond just the tech empowers these, our lifestyle, basically our lifestyle. We're seeing website. Get yours?
Getsnotes.com. It's a Bill Gates website.
Oh, I'll look it up. Okay, thank you. I was actually talking to my publisher because I was so curious about, the book, how it's done. What happened to my book is that it was supposed to publish last summer. And I had to push the publishing date because I was working so much and I couldn't write, I couldn't meet the timelines. So I pushed the publication, and then they said, okay, for Christmas last year, 2019. And I was like, okay, great. Christmas is a good time. Everybody's home. They'll have time to read. They'll buy books. And then they said, no, we can't do Christmas. We're going to do March 2020. And I'm like, what happens in March? Nothing happens in March, right? And then COVID happened in March. And that just, the idea of the book is empathy. I write about vulnerability. I write about being vulnerable and being an empath, becoming an empath, because I'm not, and I'm trying to be. But it hit at a time where all of us are thinking about empathy differently. COVID has enabled this idea that we are a people. We are one human race. And the impact that one disease has on all of us, it's collective as a human race. So we have to have empathy toward one another and match that with these racial injustices and social injustices that are real. Match that with the things that continue to be in society that bring people down, the discriminations. As we move forward with our technologies, we have to move forward with our humanity as well. We have to enable places where all of us are feeling empowered, not only by the technology, but by our own behaviors. And so my book really resonated in a time where I had no idea. It was, if it published the summer before, it probably wouldn't have had the same impact. And I love to see what it's doing in people's hearts, because it's enabling, again, that technology to be driven by empathy, our conversations to be driven by empathy, the respect, the mutual respect that we have to have for one another, just because we're human. And there's a beauty in that, I think, as the robots take over. I call it the robopocalypse. They're going to be integrating themselves in our automations, in conversations, in tools, in systems. Where does that leave us? How do we drive that as coders, or even as marketers, or as teachers and educators? How do we enable still the space for us to remain human? It's through empathy. So that's what the book is about.
So if Miri is hiring a candidate from India, what she will look at her?
I can't wait to go to India. There's this little restaurant down the street from me. It is so expensive and I don't care. I buy the food all the time because they have this lamb with this curry and the basmati rice. It's delicious. But I know it's not real because India food is from India, needs to be from India. So I'm excited to go one day. I hope to meet you in person, Deepak.
Wonderful. Good. Can you just share any initiatives taken by Microsoft on CSR, especially in this COVID-19? Would you like to share your thoughts?
Absolutely. Yeah. So when you think about, again, back to the integration of that technology, when we're thinking about CSR contributing to the pandemic, it's back to our idea of leading with empathy and really our customer being at the center of that, right? When we think about how these technologies integrate and how our customer is at the center of our technology, every industry works differently in the contribution for this, but we are definitely working with the customer in mind being at the center of this. We're asking the questions: how does this land? How do we integrate best? Does the solution work here better than here? So there's a lot of questions and a lot of learnings that we're having. I think the difference is we're no longer assuming that a solution will work, right? We prepare the solutions with the best of our knowledge and with the understanding that it may not immediately land in a certain way. So with the customer in mind, really asking the questions, and again, leading with empathy, I think is the best way that I can say that.
Wonderful, Miri. So thank you very much, Miss Miri, for providing your valuable insights to our audience. And we really appreciate the time you took out of your busy schedule and interacted with all of us.
Deepak, it is a pleasure for me to be here again and to talk to you, to meet you. It's been an honor. To everyone who invited me, also to share just many things, not only from a Microsoft perspective, but from a humanity perspective. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Miri. Thank you. See you. Stay safe.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vats Dave, a team member of LinkedIn Local Anand. I had a fabulous time in this interaction. What a great evening it was listening to you, Miri. I think we got to everyone and their questions and everything. Sometimes it gets tricky since we had so many people, but I think every question was well answered. So on behalf of Team LinkedIn Local Anand, I would like to thank Miri Rodriguez for sparing her invaluable time with us here on the session. I would also like to convey gratitude towards Mr. Deepak Bhatt sir, who hosted the event so beautifully by framing some really interesting questions that will be definitely helpful in our coming days. So great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Miri. Thank you, Deepak sir. We appreciate you being here. Thanks again for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, Miri.
Bye-bye.